Stock car racing has a long and storied history in America. From local short track racing to NASCAR and everything in between, there is something for everybody over there. But what about here across the pond? What do European fans have? Well, we do have Euro NASCAR, but they run on road courses and only race on one oval. What about when people bring over American stock cars over here? They don't have a dedicated championship, and you only see them on demonstration runs or the odd event. So, what else do we have? Well, let me introduce you to Britain's answer to NASCAR. Welcome to the world of BRISCA Formula 1 stock car racing. The story of BRISCA begins in 1954 with the first stock car race in Britain, held at New Cross Stadium in London. The sport quickly spread around the country, usually taking place on already existing greyhound racing tracks. This sharing of venues still happens today in some capacity. Originally, the cars were completely stock, but eventually they became what they are today. Nowadays they tend to be powered by a V8 Chevrolet engine. As for power, I'm not sure. The Autosport show claimed that they run 900 horsepower, but I read something a bit more realistic in 600 or 700 horsepower. Now, unlike most motorsports, BRISCA has several championships over the course of a year. There's too many to go over here, so I'll stick to the major ones. 1955 saw the beginning of the World Championship. The first, held at Haringey, was won by Mac McDonald. But the promoter for Bellevue, Johnny Hoskins, thought that the best northern drivers were omitted and just decided to run his own world final. So, just a few months later,
Jerzy Watowicz
became world champion. Bellevue then became the home of the world final until it was decided that it should be rotated around different venues in 1960. Since then, BRISCA has added the semi-finals, the consolidation semi-finals and the qualifying rounds to determine who makes it into the world final. The champion gets to run a gold roof the next season, as well as the choice to run the coveted number 1. The second major championship is the National Championship. The current champion is noted by a grey roof on their car. From 1956 to 2001, the winner was whoever scored the most points during the season. However, Frankie Lemon Jr., remember that name, dominated the 90s, and the championship was seen as just a question of who had the most money to make it to the most races. Therefore, in 2002, it was renamed the National Series. The winner was now whoever had the best 30 scores from 35 rounds. The last round scored double points, and the drivers were given one joker round per surface in which they gained double points. Yes, you heard that right. I said per surface, because BRISCA races on dirt as well as tarmac. However, it's more commonly known as shale racing. Some drivers use one car for shale and one for tarmac, but for most they use one. Since 2002, the National Series has had multiple changes and has become increasingly complicated. Finally, there is the British and European Championships. The British Championship is a single round event, while the European Championship is held during a weekend to determine who makes it to the final at the end of Sunday. You may be asking, what's the point of a European Championship and a World Championship if it's held exclusively in the UK? Well, while BRISCA is mostly made of British drivers, it hasn't stopped drivers from various nationalities trying it out. The most common foreigners to race in BRISCA are the Dutch, who have their own racing scene back home. In the early days, even some NASCAR drivers came to town. So, how is the average race day run? The event involves a number of heats to determine who races in the final, much like dirt oval racing and iRacing. These heats are usually around 16 laps, with the finals being slightly longer. The fastest drivers start at the rear, while the slowest start at the front. Contact is encouraged, but it isn't like demolition derbies or banger racing. Bumper runs are a common feature, however there is still a focus on the racing. Compared to other forms of racing, the drivers are much more approachable. You can talk to them about how their race went, and they even let kids sit in the cars sometimes. Speaking of, how about we talk about the drivers and families who have made a mark on the sport? Because just like NASCAR with the Peddys, Earnhardts and Allisons, BRISCA has its own royal families. The most famous are the Smiths based in Lancashire and the Waymans based in Yorkshire. These two families have raced against each other for decades and were even the focus of a BBC documentary in 2009. Stu Smith won 6 world titles and 13 national titles. His son Stuart won the national world titles twice. His other son Andy won the world title 5 times and the national title 3 times. As for the Waymans, Frankie Sr. won the world championship in 1979 and the national title 3 times in a row from 1984 to 1986. Frankie Jr. has won the world championship 3 times. As for the national championship, well, he's won it 14 times. His son Frankie Jr. is also a BRISCA driver, as is Phoebe, and they've had success in lower categories. But currently, no one has more world titles than John Lund, who won a total of 8. The current world champion is Tom Harris, who holds 5 world titles and 6 national titles. Now, unfortunately, while the sport has been growing in regards to online exposure, the past decade has not been kind to the sport. Multiple venues have shut down or done away with stock car racing. Wimbledon was torn down for the new plough lane, Stoke shut in 2019, Birmingham Wheels was closed by the council to make way for Birmingham FC's training ground. Just recently, Sheffield announced it would no longer support stock car racing. And then there is what would have been my local track, Brandon Speedway, also known as Coventry Speedway. In 2016, the same year it hosted the World Final, it was shut down. And ever since, it has stood rotting away. It has been the victim of arson multiple times and the landowners have done nothing to protect it as they wish to build housing over the site. But the locals have fought for the track's survival and Rugby Council have stated they wish for the track to return to its former glory. They rejected the planning permission for housing to be built over the track, and I'd encourage all of you to check out Save Coventry Speedway, and who knows, maybe we can make Brandon Speedway the UK's North Wilkesboro. Now there is one final thing I need to bring up you may want to know. On select dates, Frankie Wayman Jr. will travel down to Skegness with a bunch of his cars. Why? So fans can drive them. Yes, that's right, you can drive one of these things for a day. And guess who drove one of them last month? Yeah, I drove one of these things. A guy with no license, has only driven go-karts, and someone who couldn't shift the cars into second gear and had to be pushed by the tractor to get going. Thank you. And you know what? I actually want to try and make an event this year. It's not ask given my current budget, but who knows? If you told me I'd be going around the country racing go-karts a few years ago, I'd laugh in your face. You may or may not know that I race at Mr. Karting, which is ran by Steve and Stu Stretton. Steve was a former BRISCA driver in the 80s, and Harry Graham, who also helps out, has raced in BRISCA recently. Every now and then we've had a bunch of stock car drivers turn up, including 2022 world champion Charlie Sauder. Let's just say he got disqualified. There's a whole lot more to BRISCA than what's in this video. I haven't even mentioned the other categories they run, or the split between BRISCA and various tracks in the south that divided stock car racing for decades. But I'll leave that to someone more knowledgeable on those topics. If you're looking for some racing to watch, why not try going to a BRISCA event? This year is BRISCA's 70th season, so there's no better time than now to give it a shot. With that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.